Will Mountain West editions continue? Let's take a closer look. Conference realignment is always in the news, so we're back here on the Big Mountain to keep you updated. Hey, it's JY back on the Big Mountain without my good friend Steve. He is on vacation this week, but the crazy week of updates continues. This time, I provide an update on the Mountain West. On Monday, I dropped an interview that we had with the Director of Athletics for Fresno State, Garrett Classy. Yesterday, we dropped a super hot Pack Edition episode in which I informed our viewers that Texas State is in negotiations with the Pac-12 Conference for full membership in 2026. And yes, I have corroborated that information. Now we get into the Mountain West. Are they done with their additions, or are they just on pause for a few months? Well, let's start out with a map. As Steve says, everybody loves a map. So I want to start here with what has been going on in the Mountain West over the last several months. As we know, the Mountain West has announced additions of UTEP as a full member, Hawaii now as a full member, GCU as a full member without football, UC Davis as a member with all of their Olympic sports, that does not include football, and most recently here, just to start the new year, NIU, the Huskies from Northern Illinois, join for football only in 2026. I am excited to let you know that our next interview here on the Big Mountain is actually going to be with the athletic director of UTEP, Jim Sencher, and we hope to have that out to you here in a few weeks. Of course, I'm wearing my Payday Pete shirt here for the first time. I'm excited for UTEP, and we're going to have AD Sencher on here shortly. Really looking forward to that episode. But let's take a closer look here. As we also know, Texas State and Sam Houston State were reached out to by the Mountain West, but both decided to not entertain in discussions at that point in time. Toledo here was really early on when we had Commissioner Navarez reaching out to the MAC commissioner. This was really one of the first things to drop in terms of addition news for the Mountain West. But she had reached out to the MAC commissioner here, telling them they were interested in both NIU and Toledo, and that they were looking to have discussions with them. Again, that is just courtesy and practice, professional practice, that the commissioner gave to the MAC commissioner here. As we have seen, it took about 4 months in total for NIU's invitation to become finalized. So while Toledo, was part of the mix back then, we'll have to just wait and see if anything comes to fruition with Toledo. I have no information that they were ever even contacted by the Mountain West. So we've had a lot of kind of rumors and things with NIU over the last few months. Toledo really has been very quiet, and I have not heard anything about the Rockets. But as you know, change can create opportunity, so we're going to keep an eye out on Toledo as realignment marches on, for the MAC to see what they do here moving forward to try to possibly replace the loss of the NIU football program. With the announcement of the NIU addition, there was varying reports about Mountain West additions moving forward after that. So social rumors on the socials here, they were swirling that they're done. The Mountain West is done. They're not going to add anymore. They have their 9 football members. At the NIU press conference, Commissioner Navarez said that the conference is going to, quote, take a pause and continue to monitor the environment. She then went on to say that for now, quote, we are not planning to expand any further. Remember back in October, just a few months ago, at the Basketball Media Days, Navarez said that after they had their first 2 ads to get back to an 8-member conference, at the time that was UTEP and Hawaii being full members for this FBS conference, that solidified the conference. And she also mentioned that full-time members going east of the Rockies would be difficult due to travel of different teams. You know, there's 3-day weekends for baseball and softball, she mentioned. She mentioned the double round robins for basketball and whatnot. So she said kind of going eastward for full members could be a little bit more difficult. However, she did use the same wording when she said back then, quote, "They will continue to analyze the environment, and if there are opportunities that make us stronger, we will try to capitalize on those." That said in October. Well, we see now they have now added 3 additional members. They had a GCU, UC Davis, and now NIU. So certainly while they may be pausing, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're done. I would also add to that the NIU Director of Athletics talked about this with the trustees in front of the NIU trustees. It was a question that came up by a trustee member, and he stated that he believes that the Mountain West was not finished adding football members to the trustees. So you heard things a little bit differently there. Again, as I said on that episode, I believe there is a pause happening here. I don't see we're not going to get any new additions coming in the next several months. Quite frankly, I would be surprised really if we hear anything before June 30th. So I think that's the pause she's likely talking about. But again, depending on what happens, hey, if an opportunity comes about, that may happen. But I think right now the pause is going to be for several months. So are they keeping this close to the vest like they have been? Absolutely. I mean, very little leaks here coming out of the Mountain West. NIU happened kind of early, but UC Davis really came out of nowhere. GCU we only learned about just before that occurred. So they're keeping a lot of these additions close to the vest. So before I get into who I believe is on the top of the list of the Mountain West Conference, if they choose to add more schools, and followers to our channel they're not going to be surprised with what I'm going to say here in a little bit. I do want to clear up one thing. This is information about the UC Davis's agreement to join the Mountain West. Chris Murray, who is with Nevada Sportsnet, released an article on the details of the UC Davis's membership agreement to join the Mountain West just last week. It originally sent the socials kind of on fire. People were getting it to me almost immediately because it had stated that UC Davis had the first right of refusal if the Mountain West were to elevate any FCS football program to the conference. The article has since been edited for better clarification, and I want to give you that clarification. I put this on X immediately when I was able to read the actual document, and it wasn't as it was originally represented, although I do see people still only understanding what was originally put out there. So I'm going to throw this section up on the screen so you can see it for yourself, and I'm going to read a part of it because it's important and it clears everything up here. Under a section entitled First Consideration of Football Membership, it states that, quote, if the conference contemplates elevating an FCS program to a full member, including participation in the conference's football bowl subdivision competition, the conference will first invite UC Davis to apply for that opportunity, with the understanding that the conference is not under no obligation to select UC Davis for elevation to full member status. So this means that UC Davis must be given the right to apply for membership of their football program in the Mountain West, but that does not mean, again, no obligation of the conference to select them to be elevated at that time. So it is definitely not a UC Davis or nothing proposition. It's a UC Davis into the future. Will always be given that kind of first invitation to make an application, but they don't necessarily automatically then get in. I do not believe, as we sit here today, UC Davis is interested in football at the FBS level for several years. So this part of the contract right now is likely not going to come into play anytime soon if the Mountain West is looking at FC membership or elevating FC members to membership here in the next year or so. Now, I had to clear that up first so I can get to the next part. Who, JY, do you think are going to be the next additions? Well, at this point, the Mountain West absolutely, and we said this from the very, very beginning, they were going to go after FBS teams first, FBS schools first. And that is exactly what they did. I just listed all of them in the beginning, those that did come on to membership and those that said no thank you for the time being. They went after many FBS conference schools, were able to add some of them. I believe the next step for the Mountain West is going to FCS. I do not think it's UC Davis. As I just said, I think they're several years away, 3-4 years away from that happening for varying reasons there. So I believe both Tarleton State and North Dakota State are at the top of the list for the Mountain West. Again, I'm going to pull a map back up here that shows all of the existing schools as we know them to be, plus the location, obviously, of Tarleton State there in Central Texas, and then North Dakota State up there in North Dakota. Both of these schools are in that central time zone, and the travel here for the majority of the schools in the Western time zone. So again, when you're looking at Wyoming, Air Force, New Mexico, and UTEP, they're not that far away. Quite frankly, these schools are closer to these two possible additions, especially Tarleton State, than they are to even San Jose State, and of course, Hawaii. And everyone's going to be closer than Hawaii is. Not a knock on you, Rainbows, but that's just how it is out there on the islands. But again, I think it's important to look at the map and say, wow, they've already added NIU. These could be a nice little in-between to that kind of further eastern part of the central time zone. And again, Tarleton State there, any Texas school really fits right into that mountain time zone with the Wyomings, the Air Forces, the New Mexicos, the UTEPs, and even UNLV is right there, not difficult to get to. And while I may be biased, I think this is a pretty nice looking G6 map. At this point, I am not clear as to what membership would look like for these two schools. However, I do believe that Tarleton would like a full membership. I do not believe they're interested in football only. I'm pretty confident that Tarleton State would like a full membership. North Dakota State, on the other hand, I do believe is much more likely to go football only than what Tarleton State would be there. I have done some standalone episodes. Steve and I have done some standalone episodes on both of these schools in the past, so I'm not going to dive into detail on this again, but if you're interested to know more about Tarleton and or North Dakota State, check out our channel. We had Steve Urias on with Tarleton State. He's the athletic director, gave us a great conversation and interview, and we've done some deeper dives into North Dakota State, and I'll tell you, those Bison fans are thirsty for FBS. They really want this. We know they just won the FCS again this year. They are ready to go, and they have a heck of a football team up there in North Dakota State. As I stated earlier, we knew there was initial interest in Toledo. So to me, I'm going to leave them kind of as an option because we knew there was interest from the Mountain West here. But I do think going 5 time zones is really aggressive. I think it's a stretch for any conference here. And I think it would be difficult to manage that at the G6 level unless you're talking football only. And that was what they were looking at football only. That probably could be done. I'm a little more hesitant to go to that Eastern time zone with Toledo. Not a knock on that program at all, but this is the Mountain West we're talking about. I think the Central's probably as far east as they're willing to go. JY's opinion on that. The main reason I wanted this update was to bring you all up to speed as to where we stand today with the additions, to inform you of what I believe is going to happen in the future, that I do not believe additions are finished, and I wanted to make sure everybody was clear on what that UC Davis agreement said. That agreement does not put an addition of Tarleton State or North Dakota State in jeopardy in any way. The last thing I want to talk about there with FCS schools is speculation about the House settlement delaying any FCS invitations. I personally do not believe, and I've had conversations about this with several individuals that are more in the know than I am, but I do not believe that is a major factor. This House settlement, waiting for the settlement to occur, I don't think that's a major factor in waiting to add FCS, and here's why. When the settlement is agreed to, there's going to be new litigation very shortly after that. You know, it's going to come very swiftly for various reasons. To name a few, Title IX implications, some of the revenue sharing implications. It's not the end-all be-all in any way. And we heard that actually from A.D. Classy with Fresno State. He mentioned on our discussion, and again, I have heard other people say this similarly, that this is not the end of this. The House settlement is not going to be the end of the Wild West. It may just whip up a bigger sandstorm. With that, hey, we thank you guys for watching this episode. As you know, we stay on everything Mountain West. I am staying on everything Pac-12, and I am very confident in what I gave to our viewers yesterday regarding Texas State. Very confident in that. So with that, we thank you guys for watching. Give this one a like, subscribe if you like our content. We'll see you next time on the Big Mountain.